Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Understanding CORS and the CORS policy error. CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. It is a security feature implemented by web browsers to restrict web pages from making requests to a different domain than the one that served the web page. This mechanism is crucial as it helps prevent various attacks, such as cross-site request forgery, csrf, and cross-site scripting, XSS. When a web application makes a request to a different origin, domain, protocol, or port, the browser performs a CORS check. If the response from the server does not include the necessary headers to allow the request, the browser will block the request and throw a CORS error. The CORS policy error. When you see a CORS error in the console, it usually looks something like this. Access to fetch at https://api.example.com/data from origin https://yourdomain.com has been blocked by CORS policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. This error indicates that the server at api.example.com did not include the access control allow origin header in its response, which tells the browser whether the requesting origin, in this case, yourdomain.com, is allowed to access the resource. Example scenario. Let's walk through a simple scenario involving a front-end application making an API request to a backend service that does not have the correct CORS configuration. Step 1. Front-end code, JavaScript. Assume you have a front-end application hosted at https://yourdomain.com that tries to fetch data from an API hosted at https://api.example.com/data. JavaScript. //frontend JavaScript code. Fetch, https://api.example.com/data. Then, response equals. If, response.ok. Throw new error, network response was not OK. Return response.json. Then, data equals. Console.log, data. Catch, error equals. Console.error, there has been a problem with your fetch operation, error. Step 2, missing CORS configuration on the server. Now, let's say that the server code for api.example.com is implemented in Node.js using Express, but it does not have the proper CORS headers set. JavaScript. / server code, Node.js with Express. Const Express equals require, Express. Const app equals Express. App-get, /data, req, res, equals. Const data equals message, hello from the API. res.json, data, / no CORS headers set here. App listen, 3000, equals. Console.log, server running on port 3000. Step 3, CORS policy error occurs. When the front-end code attempts to fetch data from the API, the browser checks the response for CORS headers. Since the server does not include access control allow origin, the browser blocks the request and logs the CORS error to the console. Fixing the CORS policy error. To resolve the CORS issue, you need to configure the server to include the appropriate CORS headers in its responses. Here's how you can do this in the Express app. Step 1. Install CORS middleware. You can use the CORS middleware to easily handle CORS in your Express application. Bash. npm install CORS. Step 2. Update the server code. Now, modify your server code to use the CORS middleware. JavaScript. / updated server code, Node.js with Express and CORS. Const Express equals require, Express. const cors equals require, cors. Const app equals express. / use cors middleware. App use, cors. App get, / data, req, res, equals. Const data equals message, hello from the API. res.json, data, / cors headers set automatically. App listen, 3000, equals. Console.log, server running on port 3000. By calling appuse, cors, the server will automatically include the necessary cors headers in every response, allowing requests from any origin, by default. Conclusion: cors is an essential security feature in web browsers, but it can lead to errors if not configured properly. By understanding how cors works and how to implement it correctly, you can avoid cors-related issues in your web applications. Always remember to restrict cors to specific origins in production to enhance security. Understanding cors and the cors policy error. Cross-origin resource sharing, cors, is a security feature implemented in web browsers to prevent malicious websites from making requests to a different origin, domain, protocol, or port, than the one that served the web page. When a web application makes a request to a different origin, the browser checks if that origin is allowed to access the resource. If it isn't, the browser blocks the request and you often see a cors error in the console. What is a cors blocked by cors policy error? When you see an error message related to cors, it usually means that the server you are trying to reach hasn't explicitly allowed your origin to access its resources. This results in the browser blocking the request for security reasons. Common cors error message **. Access to XML HTTP request at http://example.com/api/data from origin http://yourdomain.com has been blocked by cors policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. How cors works. One same origin policy. By default, web browsers enforce a security measure called the same origin policy. This means that a web page can only make requests to the same domain from which it was loaded. 2 cors headers. To allow cross-origin requests, the server needs to include specific HTTP headers in its response. The most important header is access control allow origin, which specifies which origins are permitted to access the resource. Example scenario. Let's say you have a web application hosted on http://localhost 3000 and you want to make a request to an API hosted at http://api.example.com/data. 1 Front-end code, JavaScript. Here's how you might attempt to fetch data from the API. JavaScript. Fetch http://api.example.com/data. Then, response equals. If, response.ok. Throw new error, network response was not ok. Return response.json. Then, data equals console.log, data. Catch, error equals console.error. There was a problem with your fetch operation, error. 2 Backend, API server. If the API server does not include the access control allow origin header in its response, you will encounter a cors error. Example of a server response without cors headers. HTTP. http://1.1200 OK. Content type, application/JSON. Message, hello from the API. Fixing the cors error. To resolve the cors issue, the server needs to be configured to allow requests from your front-end application's origin. Example, node.js/express server configuration. Here is how you can set up a simple node.js/express server to handle CORS. 1. Install CORS middleware. Bash. npm install CORS. 2. Server code. JavaScript. Const express equals require, express. Const CORS equals require, CORS. Const app equals express. / use CORS middleware. App use, CORS. / example root. App get, / data, req, res, equals. res.json, message, hello from the API. / start the server. Const port equals process.env.port 5000. App listen, port, equals. Console.log, server running on port. Key points. Access control allow origin, this is the critical header that needs to be set by the server. Wildcard, if you want to allow all origins, not recommended for production, you can use access control allow origin, asterisk. Pre-flight requests, for some types of requests, like those using methods other than get or post, or custom headers, the browser sends a pre-flight request using the HTTP options method to determine if the actual request is safe to send. Conclusion. Understanding CORS and how to handle CORS-related errors is essential for modern web development, especially when dealing with APIs. Always ensure your server is configured to respond with the appropriate CORS headers to allow safe cross-origin requests.